which will return. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, year of our Lord 2023. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we depropagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. Welcome to the Wells Report. Time now for the front page. This is a digest of news since yesterday's broadcast. And while we were asleep today, Prosecutor Jack Smith, going after former President Donald Trump, has asked the Supreme Court to rule on presidential immunity. This being reported by USA Today. Special Counsel Jack Smith yesterday took the extraordinary step of asking the Supreme Court to step into the ongoing legal battle about whether former President Donald Trump can claim immunity from criminal charges tied to his alleged interference in the 2020 election, attempting to leapfrog the appeals court that was expected to consider that question. At the heart of Smith's request to the Supreme Court is concern about timing. The special counsel wants to hold the early March trial start date that had been set in the high-profile case against Trump. If prosecutors have to wait for federal courts to resolve the immunity question by going through the normal process, it could take months. Quote, "It's always a long shot bid for the Supreme Court to hear a case like this without waiting for the process to play out in the lower courts." This according to Notre Dame Law School professor Derek Muller. That said, Smith is rightly concerned about his slow appeals process that may interfere with the trial date and run even closer to Election Day. It seems unlikely it will persuade the Supreme Court to intervene, but it is worth asking for given the risks of delay. The Trump team, by the way, has to respond very quickly. The Supreme Court indicated it will expedite consideration of a petition by Special Counsel Jack Smith on whether former President Donald Trump can be prosecuted on charges he plotted to overturn the 2020 election. Smith made his request to the court to act with unusual speed to prevent any delays that could push back the trial until after next year's presidential election. The Trump trial in the election interference case is set to begin in March. The court asked Trump's lawyers to respond to the special counsel's motion by next Wednesday, December 20th, 2 days later than Smith had requested. The court's next scheduled conference day for consideration of such matters is January 5th, 2024. The court's brief order did not signal what it would ultimately do. A federal judge ruled in the case that it could go forward, but Trump said he would ask the federal appeals court in Washington to reverse that outcome. Smith is attempting to bypass the appeals court, an unusual step in the process, and have the Supreme Court take up the matter directly. Ukraine news today. It appears as though Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is coming back to the United States to urge more taxpayer billions for his war against Russia. And it's being called the most disgraceful charade of his first year in the Senate. That is Senator J.D. Vance. Vance told the Ingram Angle yesterday the entire choreography of Zelensky's latest visit is utterly disgraceful, which he noted will result in an undignified process, featuring the Ukrainian leader demanding American legislators sign off on a $61 billion aid package, lest they be identified as puppets of Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Vance and the Ingram Angle host Laura Ingram contrasted Zelensky's suggestion that critics of further funding are aligned with Putin with calls for help in rural America, where residents are most affected by rampant inflation and job outsourcing. If you want to secure your border first, you're actually a Putin puppet. This, according to Senator Vance. I think it's disgraceful, and I think it is grotesque. Harvard's Claudine Gay is going to remain as president of Harvard. This from the New York Times. Claudine Gay will stay on as president of Harvard University, the school's governing board announced today, despite an uproar over her evasive answers at a congressional hearing about campus anti-Semitism. The members of the board, the Harvard Corporation, deliberated into the night yesterday before finally deciding not to remove Dr. Gay, the university's first black president, from her post. Quote, as members of the Harvard Corporation, we today reaffirm our support for President Gay's continued leadership of Harvard University, said a statement signed by all of the board members other than Dr. Gay. Our extensive deliberations affirm our confidence that President Gay is the right leader to help our community heal and to address the very serious societal issues we are facing, unquote. The statement went on, however, to acknowledge that Dr. Gay had made mistakes, including in her initial reaction to the Hamas October 7th attack on Israel. Quote, so many people have suffered tremendous damage and pain because of Hamas's brutal terrorist attack. The university's initial statement should have been an immediate, direct, and unequivocal condemnation. Currently coming out in the news at this point, there are charges that Dr. Gay indeed plagiarized some of her doctoral thesis. More information on that is upcoming. Oberlin College has fired a professor over alleged war crimes. This from Fox News. Ohio-based Oberlin College removed a former Iran regime official and religion professor, Muhammad Jafar Mahalati, from his teaching post after a 3-year pressure campaign from Iranian Americans who were outraged over his role in covering up the mass murder of at least 5,000 Iranian political prisoners in 1988. Andrea Simakis, the spokeswoman for the controversial college administration, told Fox News Digital that Professor Mahalati was placed on indefinite administrative leave November 28th. Fox News Digital reported last month that Iran's former UN ambassador, Mahalati, was being investigated by the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights for subjecting Jewish students to harassment, including defending the U.S. and EU designated terrorist organization or terrorist organization designation of Hamas. Less than a month later, the college scrubbed its website of Mahalati's profile, deleted a fact sheet in which the college allegedly whitewashed Mahalati's reported crimes against humanity, anti-Semitism, and genocidal rhetoric targeting the Baha'i community in Iran. Mahalati revealed in his title, has reveled in the title Professor of Peace on the Oberlin campus because of his teaching on peace and friendship. Elsewhere in the Middle East, the Israeli-Hamas war continues. These are live updates from CNN. Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories said today, that it would open the Nitzana crossing and the Kerem Shalom crossing for inspections, but not for delivery of aid into Gaza. Once screened, the aid will be shipped to the Rafah crossing, where it will be handed over to international organizations, according to the Israeli organization. No supplies will enter Gaza directly from Israel. Israeli bombardment and restrictions on essential supplies entering Gaza have caused food, fuel, and drug shortages, crushing the medical system and leaving 2.2 million Gazans at risk of dehydration and starvation. This, according to the Commissioner General of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Philippe Lazzarini. He calls it a desperate and endless deepening tragedy and hell on earth today. Israeli troops have destroyed a Hamas rocket launch post and a weapons factory in northern Gaza, according to the IDF. The IDF said the post was used to launch rockets on the southern Israeli city of Sderot, which came under fire during the militant group's October 7th attack. And 4 Palestinians were killed in an apparent Israeli drone strike on the occupied West Bank of Jenin. The Palestinian news agency, WFAA, or WAFA, said today, CNN reached out to the IDF for confirmation. Israelis' war on Gaza has spilled into the occupied territory, with at least 275 Palestinians killed between October 7th and December 9th, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Ramallah, speaking over the weekend. Also, Israel has deployed a battalion of their best, strongest, and most professional female fighters to carry out a special activity in Gaza. This being reported by the U.S. Sun. 29-year-old Major Shira, the commander of this all-elite female team, described their actions in the Gaza Strip as another glass ceiling shattered. She told Israeli media she received instructions from the commander of the mixed battalion dubbed the Cheetah Battalion to create an all-woman team. Although Major Shira was unable to reveal much information about their activities, she said their specialist team was helping with the continuation of fighting and military intelligence. She said, "We are fighters alongside men and in cooperation with special units." Weapons news from the United States. The ATF is proposing a rule to expand gun dealer definitions. Fox News reports in a Fox News Digital exclusive. NRA ILA Executive Director Randy Kozich lambasted a proposal from the ATF that the gun rights group said would unjustly criminalize Americans for the private sale of a firearm and consequently create serious confusion for legal gun owners who engage in those firearms transactions. Kozich was reacting to the ATF proposal ATF 2022R-17, otherwise known as Definition Engaged in Business as a Dealer in Firearms, which would amend the agency's regulation and incorporate provisions of the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a gun control law signed by President Biden in 2022. The Biden's ATF proposed rule is just another attempt to demolish our Second Amendment rights with the potential to unjustly criminalize everyday Americans for engaging in lawful firearms transactions, said the spokesperson. This rule blatantly disregards the recent NRA-backed Bruen ruling on the Second Amendment. It also creates serious confusion among lawful gun owners who buy and sell firearms legally for various purposes, including home defense. The ATF also, by the way, is going after homemade suppressors. This from USA Today. Late last month, the ATF tried to remove any confusion about devices marked as solvent traps that are theoretically designed to catch excess cleaning fluids. Most are actually silencers, which are regulated by the National Firearms Act of 1934 and banned completely in many states. The standoff last year and its popularity online exemplify rising tensions over the agency's years-long struggle to keep up with do-it-yourselfers who find ways to skirt federal regulations. A viral video making its circulation shows federal officers knocking on the door of a Florida gun owner, demanding that he turn over an illegal device they claim he bought as a silencer for his AR-15 rifle. The man, Nick Vitiello, pushed back and said this, quote, "Your entire job is to take away people's guns and erode the Second Amendment." He said that to the agents on his doorstep of the Bureau Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive Agency. He throws out ATF failures like swear words, Waco, Ruby Ridge, shooting dogs. And then the agents responded with this, quote, "You've been watching too many shows and reading too many books. I'm sure we'll find you again someday." And in entertainment news this morning, the Golden Globes award show can't find a host. This being reported by CNN. With Golden Globe nominations being announced next Monday, the search for a host is underway, CNN has learned, but seemingly nobody wants the job. Two-time Oscar host Chris Rock is among those to decline offers to host the January 7th ceremony. A source with knowledge of the conversations told CNN, as have at least 4 other A-list comedic actors. Other potential nominees include Ali Wong, known for her performance in the Netflix series Beef. She was approached by the Globes. A source with knowledge of the matter told CNN, as first reported by Puck, she then declined the gig. Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman, who co-hosts the podcast Smartless, turned down an offer to MC the Globes, according to 2 sources aware of the deal. "I would be more than happy to volunteer to host the Golden Globes." More about that coming up a little bit later on this edition of the Wells Report, and that is today's front page. So what do you think? Is it time for somebody that no one knows to host the Golden Globes? I have an idea about somebody that should be brought out of retirement to do the job. I'll be talking about that coming up later on in this broadcast. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 888-379-2172. That's how you get through to the Wells Report. Please do. Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning from the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells at your service. Overheated rhetoric is creating problems in these United States, especially headed up toward the 2020 presidential election. I have long said that every 4 years, America collectively loses its mind. But in this particular run of elections, things have become more and more and more strident and also dangerous based on some of this political rhetoric. And it continued in Nashua, New Hampshire the other day. Federal officials have charged a New Hampshire man with threatening to attack presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy and area voters attending a campaign event that was going to be scheduled for Monday. Tyler Anderson of Dover repeatedly or allegedly replied to a campaign text message about a breakfast meet and greet with a series of threatening text messages, according to court documents. Quote, "Great, another opportunity for me to blow his brains out," unquote, said Anderson. At least he wrote it, threatening in a second message to kill and sexually assault other people attending the event. Ramaswamy was not named in charging documents against Anderson, but a spokesperson from his campaign confirmed he was the target of those messages. Quote, "We are grateful to law enforcement for their swiftness and professionalism in handling this matter and pray for the safety of all Americans," said Stefan Mikhailovich, the Ramaswamy's deputy communications director, in a statement to USA Today. Mikhailovich, yeah, that's probably it. Mychajliw. We'll figure it out later. Anderson allegedly sent similar text messages to at least one other presidential candidate, according to a court affidavit, writing, quote, "Hope you have the stamina for a mass shooting." He was charged with transmitting an interstate threat and is set to appear in court, or was set to appear in court yesterday afternoon. This overheated rhetoric has to stop. We have to realize that we're all being played. We're being played by a political process driven by one group of people who are hysterical about the possibility of losing power. The American people made it plain the political process is not working for them or us. It's simply not. The political process is turning into a mess. I can't really repeat a quote from a noted congressperson who is a friend of mine. When the description came out that was used, I was shocked, actually. But it doesn't take a whole lot of research to go into polling information about the people's idea of the U.S. government and the political parties to realize that this country is definitely on the wrong track, with well over 2/3 of Americans believing so, of all parties. But what's going on is misconduct. To go out and create hate and miscontent for the sole purpose of trying to win an election is monstrous. It's absolutely monstrous. We see this with people. I responded to an X post today. Somebody was trying to compare Donald Trump to Hitler and Stalin and Mussolini and all of these people again. And I'm saying, I responded, I said, "Robin, are you trying to get Trump shot? Are we really getting into a point here where violence is the way we solve our political problems?" Now, we've seen this before. The 2020 BLM riots actually resulted in death and unbelievable assaults and attempted murders and so on and so on. And this happened, like I said on previous broadcasts, in 1968. But it was college students that were theoretically protesting against the war. A lot of people believe they were simply protesting against America. And is that what we have here? Is that what we have? If you can't beat them, kill them? Is that where we're going in this nation? This is something all of us need to think about. And we need to start condemning this kind of hate speech. I hope this guy ends up in jail if he's found guilty, of course. Hope this guy finds himself in jail for a very, very long time. It's time for us to chill out and work through to make this a better country, as opposed to trying to kill people we disagree with politically. This is The Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
And welcome back to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. We are working our way through the Tuesday, December 12th, and I want to welcome you to the broadcast. So Special Counsel Jack Smith, who's chasing down President Trump, filed an extraordinary step asking the Supreme Court to step into the ongoing legal battle about whether former President Donald Trump can claim immunity from criminal charges tied to his alleged interference in the 2020 election. This is an attempt to leapfrog an appeals court that was expected to consider the question. This being reported by USA Today. At the heart of Smith's request to the Supreme Court is a concern about the timing. Special counsel wants to stick to an early March trial start date. If prosecutors have to wait for federal courts to resolve various questions, including an appeal of Judge Tanya Chutkan's decision to not allow presidential immunity in Trump's case. If they have to go through the appeals process, it would take too long, months, in fact. And indeed, the election could be over by the time the trial begins. If that indeed happens, there are implications. As a matter of fact, one of those implications was talked about by Jonathan Turley on Fox News. He was and is a brilliant guy who truly understands all of this. Let me give you what he had to say in yesterday's news on Fox.
Well, it's not that this has never been attempted before, but it is not the regular order of things. Smith had just filed, or this matter was just filed before the DC Circuit. And then he decided that he wanted to leapfrog over the Court of Appeals and go directly to the Supreme Court. The only reason for that is that he is really focused entirely on trying Trump during this campaign and trying to convict him before the election. The question is whether the Supreme Court's going to feel that that is such an urgent priority that you actually bring this case before Super Tuesday. Usually the Supreme Court likes to hear from multiple Court of Appeals. They certainly want normally to hear from at least one on these issues. And so they may not have the same sense of priority as Smith, who seems almost obsessed with trying Trump before the election.
Is there any other reason other than politics to want to do that?
Well, there's a tactical reason. If Trump wins, he can pardon himself, and then Smith will never see a jury in this case. I mean, so if Trump does prevail in the election, if he's not convicted at that point, he can give himself a preemptory pardon. He doesn't have to wait for the trial.
And that was sorry about that technical glitch there, but that was what Jonathan Turley had to say about that particular circumstance. Now, what you need to keep in mind, at least in my opinion, is the following: the way this works is that Jack Smith is in a tight spot. He is going to court with a whole sequence of charges against President Trump that he's likely going to lose. And the reason he's going to lose this is because at some point you can no longer defy gravity. And when you can no longer defy gravity, what you end up with is a circumstance whereby you have to succumb to the reality of the situation that you're in. In this particular case, Jack Smith is trying to throw up a case that would indeed be an attempt to both smear President Trump and indeed try to convict him during the election process, which is outrageous. It's outrageous on its face. And we have to discover what the limits of presidential immunity are, what presidential privilege is, and these things have not been defined. The reason they haven't been defined is because there's never been a need to. But there is certainly now, because the political process going against President Trump has been at least draconian, and that is something that we've all had to pretty much deal with. And so when we come down to this, what we have a guy who is at one point trying to create problems for President Donald Trump during the election. This is more election interference and more of the kind of interference that we saw the deep state work with when it came to the actual Trump administration, his first go round when he was the 45th president of the United States. And this being said, what ends up being perhaps the most damaging thing of all of this is that President Trump is going to have to both campaign for federal office and also appear in court at various times. And I'm sure that if these things do go forward, the need for President Trump to be there will be specified by the prosecutor, etc. Now, there is also some other problem here. There's another problem here. What if the Supreme Court finds that President Trump is immune from prosecution? What happens then? If that's the case, then that's the case. In other words, the Supreme Court can do away with all of this with a decision in President Trump's favor. Will that happen? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I know there is a supposed conservative majority on the Supreme Court. But how many of those people are never Trumpers? How much of this process is going to be political? Obviously, this is something the court absolutely hates to do, and that is to wade into these situations of politics. The court hates to do that. All courts do. It's a violation of the separation of powers. But once again, where do you go? There are rules that have been in place for presidents from time immemorial that do not apply to President Trump. And the reason is because the political process is afraid of him. They are afraid of the possibility that the American people will turn away from the political process that have been so carefully engineered over the last few decades to create a different country, to create a different way of doing business, to grant more power to the federal government. And this is something that they like. These government entities really like the power that they have, and why wouldn't they? But President Trump threatens to dismantle all of that. When President Trump famously talked about draining the swamp, this is the swamp he was talking about. CNN also had some information regarding this, also had some commentary with regards to what their legal analysis is of Jack Smith's move to move directly to the Supreme Court for what is all intents and purposes a directed verdict.
This is huge. This is the first time the special counsel is going right to the Supreme Court, and he is asking them to decide the question of whether former President Trump is immune from criminal prosecution. Now, this is a question that Trump has been litigating. He lost at the district court level. He said he intended to appeal, but usually an appeal would at least first go to the Court of Appeals, and then, depending on what happens there, possibly go to the Supreme Court. But the special counsel here is saying, no, just you guys take this up now. Because, yes, this is an interesting constitutional question, but the special counsel is mindful of the calendar. This is all about timing. So here the special counsel is saying, look, we need you to decide this now so that this case can go on as planned in March. In fact, they're also saying that, look, even if you don't want to take this question up, if you don't want to skip the Court of Appeals, can you at least tell the Court of Appeals to do this quickly? Because, Dana, if a question like this goes through the normal channels, it can take months, possibly well over a year to decide this, which could push that trial until after the election.
Paula Reed from CNN doing a great job. That's wonderful analysis. She's very, very good, and once again proved it with that wonderful summation of what's going on here. But it can't just be tossed away that indeed President Trump might win this in the Supreme Court. If indeed he wins this in the Supreme Court, it's game over. And if also there is a delay in the actual start of the Jack Smith trial against President Trump, then it's very likely that President Trump, if he is reelected to the presidency, could simply pardon himself. Now, that is fraught with difficulty. That is not something that you can just toss out there and say, well, he'll just pardon himself. Well, that would raise the hackles of just about everyone. Some people supporting the move, some people saying, what is he doing? But he could do it. And it's never been done. Another thing that has never been done in the American political process. And there are two ways of looking at this. Either that's gross misconduct and abuse of power by the President of the United States, or it is a just solution to what many people believe is an unjust chase of President Donald Trump for the dismantlement of the administrative state, these executive branch agencies that wield way too much power, and indeed attempted to bring down Donald Trump with what was, for all intents and purposes, a coup, with the director of the secret police, the director of Homeland Security, the director of the CIA, NSA, all coming together to try to plot to remove Donald Trump. One time, a DOJ official, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire into the Oval Office to try to get President Trump to incriminate himself. And when you have all this going on, when you have this intrigue, it's easy for people to say, okay, this is an arch criminal that needs to be removed from the public landscape. But it's also easy to say that this is the people's choice for president, who is attempting to return the United States of America into a less draconian federal republic, which is exactly where the move is. The federal government of the United States is far too powerful. It is well beyond the limitations placed on it by the Constitution of the United States. It's far beyond all that. There are laws, quote unquote laws, that we live under that have never faced a vote in Congress. Well, Congress makes law. The legislative branch makes law. The executive branch executes that law. The judicial branch interprets that law. And when you just blow that off and say, hey, you know what? We're going to let the EPA make its own decisions, the SEC make its own decisions, the IRS, et cetera, all of these things. That's where things begin to break down because you don't live in a republic any longer. What you do is you live in a federal dictator state where these federal government agencies just tell you how you're going to live. Now, we've discovered the limits of that with regards to, nobody can buy a gas stove. No, nobody can drive a gasoline-powered car. We've seen some of that, and it's been roundly turned away. And when you start thinking about the practical impact of that, what you end up with is, okay, how are you going to create a power grid necessary to be able to support all this electricity use? That's going to take a huge investment beyond the scope of any kind of reality to be able to make that happen. And so what we have is we have a federal government being pushed by various special interest agencies that have donated billions of dollars to politicians throughout the years and imposing their agenda on the American people absent any kind of legislative process. So we no longer live in what is typically a republic, what has been a republic up to this time. We live in an administrative state. Donald Trump threatens to take all that out, and he has plenty of reason to do so. The reason that he has to do so is because of this attempted coup against his presidency, the sabotage of a special counsel that happened all throughout his presidency, all of these things. And what is all that? What is that? What are we doing here? What we're doing here is we are witnessing the hijacking of the American experience, regardless of where your politics lie. We either have a representative form of government, a republic, or we don't. And right now it's looking like we don't. And it's also looking like that administrative state in which we live is doing its damnedest to remove anybody that would take their power away. And I suppose that's just plain human nature, but it's not the American way. And what will the people of the United States do? What will be the next choice? And of course, that takes us down to our decision-making process. There are serious concerns about that decision-making process. We call those elections. Are they fair? Are they just? Are they even real? I mean, I still cannot believe. I find it fascinating that of all the people that have run for president of the United States, the one that got the most votes of any president ever is Joe Biden. Joe Biden? Really? And since we haven't actually faced the realities of the 2020 election, there are more and more stories about people saying, well, wait a minute, there was this fraud here and that fraud there, and this investigation could go forward and this can't. But that's been 3 years. This political process is formidable from a standpoint of protecting their own interests. And therein, for me, is the greatest flaw. The government isn't about protecting its own interests. The government is about protecting the interests of the American people. Where is that? Can you find it? I look for it every single day, right here on this broadcast. By the way, the Trump team has until next Wednesday, December 20th, to deal with all of that. They have until December 20th to be able to respond to the Supreme Court. By the way, the Supreme Court has not said whether they're going to take up this case or not. I suspect that they won't. they'll either do a directed verdict and say, yep, President Trump is immune from prosecution, or they'll say, no, we're going to go through the appeals process, and we'll have to find that out, won't we? This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. In the pages of USA Today, there is an op-ed piece that you should read. It is from Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson. He talks a little bit about impeachment and the impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. Here's what he has to say. Impeachment is among the most solemn constitutional authorities the U.S. Congress holds, particularly when it comes to a president. As a constitutional lawyer and former member of the House Judiciary Committee, I've encouraged my colleagues to carefully consider the gravity of impeachment proceedings and the facts surrounding the current investigation into President Joe Biden's conduct. This week, the House will vote to take the next critical step by formalizing the impeachment inquiry into President Biden. The Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committees will continue their investigation into the role of the president in promoting alleged influence peddling schemes of his family members and associates, the orchestration of which reaped millions of dollars in payments from Americans' former and foreign adversaries. The committee will also further investigate statements made by the president concerning his knowledge and involvement in those schemes and his role the administration might have played in covering up any alleged wrongdoing. The House has a full plate of pressing issues. We do not take this inquiry lightly. Our southern border is wide open. American families are struggling to make ends meet. and a perception of American weakness has thrust the world into a state of chaos. Yet at this juncture, the evidence mounting against President Biden cannot be ignored, and the pushback from the White House and others must be addressed. Here are the accusations against the president. From 2014 to 2019, Biden family members, their affiliate companies, received more than $15 million from foreign companies and foreign nationals in Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Romania, and China. Biden business associates received an additional $9 million. There are at least 22 examples of President Biden speaking with or meeting with Hunter Biden's foreign business associates. President Biden and the White House have lied multiple times about his involvement in his family's business schemes. Last week, investigators revealed information showing payments to Joe Biden from Hunter Biden's business account, which was funded by payments from China. Investigators also released an interim report detailing the special treatment Hunter Biden received from Joe Biden's Justice Department. A credible FBI source relayed information about an alleged bribe Joe Biden accepted during his time as vice president. This, again, is an op-ed piece you can find in USA Today by Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. These accusations refute the president's repeated claims he had no knowledge of his son's foreign business dealings, that his son had not made money from China. The White House has withheld thousands of pages of documents and emails from the National Archives, where then President Joe Biden was communicating under pseudonyms clearly designed to avoid public scrutiny. What is the president hiding? The House will likely need to go to court to enforce its subpoenas, and opening a formal inquiry backed by a full vote of the full body puts us in the strongest legal position to gather the evidence and provide transparency to the American people. I served on the impeachment defense teams of former President Donald Trump on both occasions when House Democrats abused this process. Their efforts in 2019 employed the shortest proceedings, compiled the thinnest evidentiary record, and used the narrowest grounds ever to impeach a president. Many of the Democrats who voted to bring impeachment charges ran congressional campaigns with a premeditated plan to impeach Donald Trump. In doing so, they cheapened that solemn power and further eroded trust in our nation's institutions. House Republicans have taken the opposite approach. We will not prejudge this investigation. We will depose witnesses, gather evidence, establish a thorough record, and present articles of impeachment only if the evidentiary record dictates such actions. We understand that to begin to rebuild Americans' trust in Congress, we owe it to the people to undertake this process methodically and transparently. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, and Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith have done exceptional work in that regard. The American people have a right to know whether the president, through his family, traded official acts for foreign dollars, whether the president is compromised, and whether Joe Biden abused his power as president to impede or obstruct the investigation into Hunter Biden. As we have done all along, House Republicans will continue to follow the facts wherever they lead. Those are great words. The Republicans are famous for great words. It's actions that are the problem. Now, those great words are kind of argued with by various kinds of statements made by James Comer and Jim Jordan and so on in the press. If you are going to follow this all the way to its conclusion in a solemn and sober way, you need to mitigate, or what you need to do is you need to, not mitigate, but you need to moderate your rhetoric to the point where you only discuss fact. And in my view, that is better, especially for the American people's consumption, that those statements be reformed and reframed into questions. I've asked questions of the Biden family here on this broadcast. When will you come clean to explain these very damaging pieces of information coming to the House impeachment inquiry? When are you going to deal with these? At this particular moment, President Biden just famously walked right past the press ever since Hunter Biden was indicted again in California court. So when are they going to start talking? I'm not interested in convicting President Biden of anything, or Hunter Biden, or President Trump. I'm just interested in the details. I'm just interested in the facts. From that, I can make up my mind, and you can make up your mind just in time, hopefully, for a reasoned vote in a polling booth. Hour number 2 of the Wells Report is next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Today's Tuesday, December 12th, year of our Lord 2023. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. That's not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. So, should we be involved in the internal politics of Ukraine? Should we? Should we be sending upwards of $100 billion to Ukraine to help them fight against Russia? Should we be supplying them weapons? Should we have anything to do with what is, for all intents and purposes, a far-flung civil war between Russia and another country? Now, that other country is mainly Russian, but the point of the matter is should we be involved in any way, shape, or form? Now, that is obviously an academic question because we are involved. We have sent hundreds of billions of dollars, or $100 billion so far, and they want to send more. Should we be doing that? A lot of people, including somebody that I really respect, Mike Pompeo, says yes. But what about you? I look at a wide open southern border, a border I've served on as a soldier of Texas twice. And I've seen the depravity and horror down there. And I've also watched fentanyl come to our borders through that wide open, or come through those borders and poison Americans, killing kids and Americans all over the nation, in that we have all become border states. That remains wide open, but we're still sending billions upon billions to Ukraine to protect their borders from Russia. There are other things. America is, a lot of people believe that America is the only hope for rational human existence around the globe. In other words, we're the world police force. That's really expensive. When you're $33 trillion in debt, and the United States is this the time to be throwing uncountless dollars, unaccountable dollars, just dollars everywhere to Ukraine? Well, like I said, we have done so. Many political leaders believe it is the thing to do. Many taxpayers are scratching their heads. I'm one of them. Ukraine was a province of the old Soviet Union. They have lived under Russian rule before. When the Soviet Union broke up, all of these countries became themselves again. It looks as though Vladimir Putin wants to put that empire back together again. And they're working on Ukraine. Now, there are a lot of reasons why Russia has to have Ukraine, mainly the Crimean Peninsula, where they have a lot of military bases, and they need those bases to be able to project power around the world through the use of naval means. And Ukraine said, no, it's all ours, and that's just the way that is. Well, Russia's not going to put up with that. And there were no negotiations. There was just an argument that spilled over into war. And we jumped right in. And so Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is in the United States to lobby for more money for his country. Should we be granting him more taxpayer dollars? By the way, if you have an answer, 817-379-2172. 817-279-3172. You can also, 817-379-2172. Jenny says the answer to all your questions is no. We are so broke, we can't take care of our own country. We need to come first. We need to fix our border. That's the way a lot of Americans feel. Thank you very much, Jenny. I appreciate it. Senator J.D. Vance is one of those people that says, really? He says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's return to the U.S. to urge more taxpayer dollars for the war against Russia is a disgraceful charade. Vance told the Ingram Angle last night the entire choreography of the Zelensky visit is utterly disgraceful. He noted that it will result in an undignified process, with the Ukrainian leader demanding that American legislators sign off on another $61 billion in taxpayer dollars, or they will be identified as puppets of Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Now, that charge was famously leveled against President Trump. He was going to be a puppet of Vladimir Putin. And now what's happening is that now the accusation is coming back home to roost. Because if we don't continue to send billions of dollars, and who knows where that money's going? Where's the accountability in it? No one knows. No one has any idea. Is Vladimir Zelensky now one of the richest men in the world thanks to U.S. dollars that he's tucked away for himself? We don't know. I'm not making that accusation. But just exactly what are we doing? Senator Vance told Laura Ingram that this choreography is undignified. He contrasted Zelensky's suggestion that the critics of further funding of Ukraine are aligned with Putin, with calls for help in rural America, where residents are most affected by rampant inflation, job outsourcing, strangely, not mentioning the wide open border. Vance did, however, bring that up. He said, if you want to secure your border first, you're actually a Putin puppet. He said that publicly today of President Zelensky. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's grotesque. He says Zelensky's rhetoric is a ploy to apply pressure on reticent Republicans to give up on their border security fight and instead allow another blank check for Kiev. I'm not doing it. I don't think Republicans should go for it. He said, with both lawmaker and host Laura Ingram, noting that Zelensky has not been confrontational with his own European neighbors for financial aid. Now, that's a very important point. That very important point is this. The United States of America spent easily $1 trillion in keeping Europe safe during the Cold War because Russia was right there on that continent. If they're worried about this incursion into Ukraine, why isn't the European Union helping Ukraine? As a matter of fact, why isn't the European Union taking the lead in providing the lion's share of money for Ukraine? Well, because they don't have to. Why don't they have to? Well, because the United States will do it. Meanwhile, we can get back to replacing the gold leaf on the fences surrounding the Palace of Versailles if you're France. And you can use American money in a fungible way. Since we don't have to spend money on Ukraine, the United States is spending money on Ukraine, we can spend it on other things here in our own countries. They're doing what many Americans want the United States to do, which is spend that money in their own countries. Now, money being fungible, in other words, you can use it for lots of different purposes. The interesting thing about all that is, well, okay, so the European Union goes ahead and starts funding Ukraine. I don't know that any of us would have a huge problem in sending some of that funding to those European Union countries in an effort to bolster them and help them move forward with what is a threat to the entire Eastern Bloc of countries in Europe. Now that's something that interests me as well. So the assertion is that if Vladimir Putin gets Ukraine, well, he's going to get Poland and Romania and the Slovakian Republic and these other countries, they'll just fall right back into line. He'll just go from one country to another to another. There's no reason to believe that that's the case. Remember, this all started because of a few naval bases on the Crimean Peninsula. So would he really begin a conquest of Eastern Europe again to reform the Soviet Union, or is that just propaganda? That's another question that isn't really dealt with. What's to make people believe that Vladimir Putin even has the financial wherewithal to continue his move into Ukraine, into these other Eastern European countries? This war is expensive for Putin too. This is not just something that you can just do because you just have an endless supply of troops and men and bullets, et cetera, et cetera. You got to pay those guys. You have to pay those guys. You have to actually fund that war. Russia barely has an economy the size of France. The United States of America, for all intents and purposes, won the Second World War through economic means. We were literally capable of providing more war material to the war effort in the World War II than the Axis powers could destroy. And eventually, you simply overwhelm your enemy. Well, economics is an essential part of warfare, and Russia just doesn't have the money. They don't have the money to go back and conquer Poland and conquer Romania and conquer all these other countries. They just don't. But that's what the propaganda of the day is saying. We simply have to stop them in Ukraine, or by golly, he'll take over all of Eastern Europe. That is a continuation of what was called the domino theory. It was one of the reasons the government justified incursion into Vietnam in what was, again, a civil war between the parties. And so here we are repeating our mistakes. It is the new domino theory. Now, there would be people that said, well, you know, what ended up happening is we went into Vietnam and we stopped them. No, we did and we didn't. We did and we didn't. Although the communist incursion into Asia arguably has not gone according to the wishes of the most virulent communists that wanted to see that happen. But there's no reason to believe that that's what's going to happen in Eastern Europe. None. So what are we doing? My wife is Polish and Ukrainian. I have some interest in this fight. But on the other hand, I think what's going on in an effort to spend money in Ukraine is borrowing trouble that hasn't made itself apparent. And then there's this. Just exactly why are we sending all that money to Ukraine in the first place? Is it because Joe Biden made a deal? Is it because Joe Biden's paying off on a political debt or a monetary debt? Money did come from Ukraine into the Biden family. Is this the payoff? These things can't be ignored. These problems must be addressed. I want to see the government of the United States begin to address them. We have to find out if a compromised president is spending billions in Ukraine because he's obligated to because of deals he made as vice president. In other words, President Biden has some explaining to do. Will he do it? Or in the case of his mental acuity, is he even capable of doing it? All questions perhaps for another day. This is the Wells Report. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget, you can deal with us on the phone personally, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Join us on the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. One of the coolest things about living life in the 21st century and dealing with what we deal with every day, which is interacting with each other over the internet. I mean, we're connected to the entire world. And so we find ourselves in a position where quite literally, we have windows into other nations that we normally wouldn't have. Like, for example, being able to eavesdrop on Russian television. They're talking about this Zelensky visit. They're talking about the fact that the United States is having trouble going ahead and countenancing $61 billion more for Ukraine. This is from a news program in Russia discussing this very topic.
What's happening in the U.S. is beneficial for us.
Ukraine is losing. Russia is winning. This is it. Their funding and weapons came to an end.
As of now, well done, Republicans. They're standing firm. That's good for us. Even Mitch McConnell, well done, Gramps.
Well done, Gramps. Well done, Gramps. I think that's fascinating. I love that. And so that's what they're thinking in Russia, at least according to that particular news program. Embattled Harvard president Claudine Gay has gained unanimous support from the university board. Quote, as members of the Harvard Corporation, we today reaffirm our support for President Gay's continued leadership of Harvard University. The statement from the Harvard Corporation said our extensive deliberations affirm our confidence that President Gay is the right leader to help our community heal and address the very serious societal issues we are facing. The Harvard Corporation, the university's top governance board, announced the decision this morning following the conclusion of a board meeting to discuss this very issue. The Harvard Crimson, the university's student newspaper, was first to report the news this morning. By the way, Claudine Gay is now being accused of plagiarism. She's being accused of plagiarism. Whoa. That is something that has created some problems. Now, there has been immediate pushback, but this comes to us from the Daily Beast. A high-profile conservative activist who almost single-handedly turned critical race theory into a national flashpoint has now accused embattled Harvard president Claudine Gay of plagiarizing, quote, multiple sections, unquote, of her 1997 PhD thesis. That's a claim which Gay's own thesis advisor calls absurd in an interview with the Daily Beast. Professor Gary King explained that this is not a conceivable case, that this is plagiarism. He explained that Gay's work underwent extensive review and never provoked even a suggestion of paragraph pinching in more than a quarter century. Her dissertation and every draft I read of it met the highest academic standards. On Sunday evening of this weekend, Christopher Rufo, the right-wing Manhattan Institute, took to social media with what he termed bombshell evidence that Gay had lifted others' work as her own while a doctoral student at Harvard. Rufo posted a long thread side-by-side screenshot on X, formerly Twitter, of alleged copycat passages. Flagging language he seemed problematic. Rufo called this a direct violation of Harvard policy, which reads, when you paraphrase, your task is to distill the source's ideas in your own words. It's not enough to change a few words here and there and leave out the rest. Instead, you must completely restate the ideas in the passage in your own words. If your own language is too close, then you're plagiarizing. Harvard officials, Gay did not respond to the Daily Beast's request for comment, and that is out there. So we will see. The Harvard president under fire. I don't really have any concerns about her plagiarism or alleged plagiarism. My concern is her anti-Semitism, what appears to be anti-Jewish bigotry. But Harvard says, no, we're going to stand by our person. Okay, stand by your person. And as I posted on X this morning, goodbye, Harvard. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for being a part of the broadcast. We'll continue in just a couple of moments for this Tuesday morning, December 12th.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Thanks for being with us today. We have news from the Middle East, specifically the Israeli-Hamas war, and it is intensifying. There is escalatory news. In other words, Israel is escalating their, shall we say, operations in the particular theater of war. This in the form of projection of power. The Israeli Navy said its missile ships are operating in the Red Sea. This amid threats to merchant shipping there from Iran-backed Houthi forces. The Israeli Defense Force said today, and by the way, this news is courtesy of CNN and is 4 minutes old. 4 minutes. The Israeli Defense Force said the operational processing of four new Sa'ar 6 class corvettes has been completed for the first time. A Sa'ar. It's S-A-apostrophe-A-R, Sa'ar. 6 missile ships sailed into the Red Sea. That is the body of water that is between Israel and the Houthi rebels operating in Yemen. It said the missile ships of the Israeli Navy are continuing to operate in the Red Sea according to the situational assessment and as part of an enhanced defense effort. This week, the INS Megan, a Sa'ar 6 class corvette, anchored in the port of Eilat for the first time, joining Israeli Navy operations. Earlier today, Houthi rebels warned that they would continue to prevent all ships of all nationalities heading to Israeli ports from navigating in the Arab and Red Seas until food and medicine is provided to the Gaza Strip. They also claimed responsibility for an attack on a Norwegian registered oil and chemical tanker, Strinda. Israel said it's preparing to act against efforts by Houthi rebels in Yemen to disrupt shipping in the Red Sea if the international community fails to do so. This according to Israeli National Security Advisor Jachi Hanegbi. He said that over the weekend. Israel is giving the world some time to organize in order to prevent this. But if there is not to be a global arrangement, because it is a global issue, we will act in order to remove this naval siege. Now, you need to keep something in mind on this. Houthi rebels have already fired missiles toward Israel. They're within their rights to fire back. They have not, for whatever reason, used the means at their disposal to do so. But it seems to me, and I said this on broadcasts previously to this one, that the United States should have immolated those Houthi positions in Yemen that were firing those missiles, because they were indeed fired in the direction of a United States warship. Now, maybe what's going on is that this, well, what did they call it? What do they call it? They called it, they said operational processing. The operational processing of these corvettes could very quite literally be the rearming of them with capabilities they didn't have before. And if that's the case, then I would expect Israel to bombard Houthi rebel positions without much delay, which is something that needs to happen. So that's where this stands. And indeed, that would broaden the conflict, because suddenly Israel is now reaching beyond its own borders, beyond its own territory, to engage Iran-backed terror forces that are attacking it. So, some background: the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen are a Shia political and military organization. They've been fighting a civil war against a Saudi-backed coalition since 2014. There's been an uptick in their maritime activities since the Hamas attack on Israel October 7th. The group said that any ship heading toward Israel was a legitimate target. Well, that's a declaration of war in all forms that you can think of. And if indeed that's the case, they can expect some incoming. That's what I would expect. U.S. warships have been protecting shipping in the region. Last week, a U.S. warship shot down multiple unmanned aerial vehicles that came from Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen in the southern Red Sea. This according to U.S. military officials. One of the incidents came during a series of attacks on 3 commercial vessels. 47 minutes ago, Hamas-controlled health ministry claims Israeli troops are inside Gaza hospitals and interrogating staff. That would follow. The Israeli military is now inside Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza. This, according to the spokesperson for the Hamas-controlled health ministry in the enclave, Ashraf Al-Qidra. Al-Qidra alleged the hospital director, Dr. Ahmet Al-Khalat, and all medical staff, including female staff, were being held in the emergency department and being subjected to interrogation. CNN has asked the Israeli Defense Forces whether its troops are indeed now in the hospital. Dr. Al-Khalat told CNN that Kamal Adwan was surrounded by Israeli forces. In one recent tank shelling, Dr. Al-Khalat said the maternity ward was hit, killing 2 women and leaving 2 so badly wounded their legs required amputation. The hospital has no water, no food, no fuel. I make an appeal to lift this siege and bring in water and fuel. On Friday, the IDF said clashes near Kamal Adwan Hospital were in response to Hamas' barbaric attacks. The Israeli military said it only carried out operations in and around hospitals when they're being used by Hamas and other armed groups. News has indeed come from that theater that is indeed happening. In other words, there are more and more caches of weapons being found in civilian enclaves. And that belies the idea that many people have put forward that Hamas is using the population of Gaza as human shields. Elsewhere, the Israeli Defense Forces said today 13 soldiers have been killed by friendly fire in Gaza since the beginning of the ground operation in the enclave, according to the IDF tally. Of the 104 IDF troops killed in Gaza since October 27th, 20 were killed in what the IDF said were accidents, 13 in friendly fire, 6 in incidents related to weaponry, machinery, or trampling, and 1 because of firing irregularities. This means that 1 in 8 soldiers killed in Gaza have been killed by friendly fire. Aid deliveries to Gaza directly from Israel not on the table. This according to an Israeli official speaking to CNN. There is currently no plan to allow aid to enter Gaza directly from Israel. This is according to an official at Israel's Coordinator of Government Activities and Territories. That is called COGAT. This according to CNN yesterday. Israel opened the Kerem Shalom crossing for inspections of aid on Tuesday, today, but not for goods to enter Gaza. Any aid screened at Kerem Shalom is sent to the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt to be handed over to international organizations and transported into Gaza. Ask about plans to use Kerem Shalom to get aid into Gaza. COGAT's Colonel Moshe Tetra told CNN yesterday it's not on the table at the current time, adding that decision is a political one, not a military one. There is rampant disease throughout Gaza, according to the Hamas Health Ministry. Diseases including chickenpox, meningitis, upper respiratory tract infections are spreading. Palestinian and international medical authorities said that as living conditions continue to deteriorate during the ongoing Israeli operations. Roughly 160,000 to 165,000 cases of diarrhea have been recorded among children under the age of 5, according to the World Health Organization, who held a briefing today. Cases of impetigo, meningitis, jaundice have also been recorded in the enclave, according to Richard Peppercorn, the WHO representative in the occupied Palestinian territories. The WHO is trying to set up mobile labs in Gaza to analyze samples for jaundice. He warned that cramped living conditions are contributing to disease. And as far as the rest of it goes, Israel did open that Kerem Shalom crossing for inspections, but not delivery. That does make sense. First of all, there are no international forces at Kerem Shalom. In other words, they're all at the Rafah crossing, waiting for more supplies to be delivered first to the crossing and then into Gaza. So it would make sense. Now, they opened up these entries for a reason, not necessarily for the IDF's purposes, but certainly at some point in the future, there will be some humanitarian aid coming through those crossings, at least in my opinion. That's what I would believe would be happening. And with that being the case, then you can expect that living conditions in that area will improve as soon as Hamas is neutralized. This could all stop very quickly if the Palestinian people would simply start dealing with the IDF and telling them, the IDF, where these Hamas operatives are. And this takes us back to the innocent Palestinian question. Are there innocent Palestinians? That is, I'm sure there's some. I'm sure that maybe it's a pretty good number. But on the other hand, there are also people that are cooperating with Hamas to their supposed benefit. I don't know what that would be. And why aren't they turning these Hamas militants in? If they would, if indeed that Israel could account for all the leadership that they're trying to get, then this could come to an end quite quickly. So why don't they do it? Is it because there are no innocent Palestinians? Is it because Hamas has terrorized its own people to the point that they're afraid to speak? There are pieces of information that point directly to that, specifically Hamas militants or Hamas civilians, these innocent civilians spoken of, were trying to surrender to Israeli troops and were shot by snipers. Well, whose snipers were they? They certainly wouldn't be Israel snipers. Why would they be? No, they were very likely Hamas snipers trying to stop these people from surrendering. Now, I don't know that to be a fact, but what else makes sense? By all means, if you have an answer, 817-379-2172. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. If you have a different viewpoint, you can share it. 817-379-2172. And if you happen to be listening to this, if you happen to be watching this someplace in a country that is friendly to Hamas, feel free to call. Feel free to call. Tell me what you think. Give me your point of view. I'd love to have that. I'd love to be able to sit down with somebody that believes that Hamas acted properly and ask them questions. Because I can't see the rationale. Perhaps somebody can share it with me. I don't know that that's the case. I have brought it up on X with several Palestinian supporters and have yet to get straight answers out of any of them. Why not? If indeed they operate in truth, why are they afraid of the truth? I've asked simple questions, straightforward ones. Why don't I get answers? Instead, I'm attacked. Ad hominem attacks. Instead, I'm the subject of aspersions being cast on my politics and beliefs, etc., etc. All under the predicate of, well, I must be a Zionist. I'm a human being. That's what I am. I'm a journalist. I'm chasing this story. Can't do it all by myself. Don't have the budget to fly there and put microphones in people's faces. Don't have that capability yet. At some point, possibly I will. But until then, we have this. Just because we may disagree with regards to this Hamas-Israel mess, doesn't necessarily mean we can't talk about it. Unless, of course, you can't talk about it. Will I ask difficult questions for you to answer? Absolutely. Because there are big holes in the logic that has so far been presented to this reporter and everybody that I've reported to. And a lot of people around the world are just going, what are they doing? I want to find out. So feel free to share. 817-379-2172. Here's what it looks like to me. Palestinians could stop this anytime they want if enough so-called innocent Palestinians would act and turn in what is a government that has proven to be a terrorist force. They have proven to be a terrorist force. They shot their own video as they murdered, tortured, killed, raped, mangled Israelis. They shot their own video. Well, if that's Hamas, and if there are innocent Palestinians, why don't innocent Palestinians act? That's the question I'd like to start with right this moment. Why won't they act? Why don't they say, okay, the tunnels are here and here and here, and this was when I was forced to hold weapons in my pantry, et cetera, et cetera? Why don't they do that? Maybe it's because there aren't any innocent Palestinians, or not enough of them to actually end this conflict. What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. What do you believe? I mean, we've been treated to all kinds of hysterical propaganda, granted from both sides. But that being said, you've had enough opportunity to be able to take a look at this. Well, what do you see? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172 gets you through to the Wells Report. So, the latest attack on people who, say, for example, I don't know, are masters of ceremonies of Hollywood award shows, have made it impossible for people to want to take those jobs, specifically the Golden Globes. What are they going to do without a host for their upcoming award show? We'll talk about that coming up in a minute. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells at your service. Going to the chat room. See, what do we got here? Jenny said something about they hid my comment. What comment did they hide, I wonder? Ann says, all the knotheads from Hollywood went to Ukraine in support of attacking, but where are they now when Israel was attacked? That's a great question. And that side kind of sort of leads us to the Golden Globes. So a lot of very famous Hollywood actors, arguably a majority of those speaking, came out in support of Palestine or Palestinians, since there is no Palestine. And they have a problem. And that problem is leading to a lack of a host for the Golden Globes award show. First of all, the Golden Globes are going to announce their nominations, I guess, on Monday. And they're trying to find a host. Two-time Oscar host Chris Rock is among those to decline offers from the organization, the Hollywood Foreign Press, told the January 7th ceremony. A source with knowledge of the conversations told CNN. Let's see who else. Rock was also asked to host the previous Golden Globes, last attended a major award show in 2022 when he was slapped at the Oscars by Will Smith for telling a joke that referenced Jada Pinkett and her Jada Pinkett Smith's battle with alopecia. Rock will likely be a nominee at the upcoming ceremony in a new category of Best Performance in Stand-Up Comedy on Television for his Netflix special, Chris Rock, Selective Outrage. Other people have declined. Another potential nominee for performance in the Netflix series Beef, Ali Wong, was also approached to host the Globes, a source with knowledge of the matter told CNN. As first reported by Puck, Wong declined the gig. Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman, who co-hosted the podcast or who co-host the podcast Smartless, turned down a joint offer to MC the Globes, according to two sources aware. A representative for Smartless decided not to speak on the subject. If the trio had said yes, it would mark the first time since the Globes had three hosts when Louis Gossett Jr., Leslie Nielsen, and Jane Seymour co-helmed the show in 1993. A majority of the annual Boozy Dinner Party's 81 ceremonies have actually gone without a host, but the Globes seem to draw more chatter when they have one or two. There's not much hope that Amy Poehler or Tina Fey, who co-hosted the Globes 4 times to critical acclaim, would return. The two have previously promised they're done with the gig, and apparently they meant it. Okay, that's fine. But there is also one host that famously, last time he did this particular gig, said it was going to be the very last time. And that, of course, was Ricky Gervais. Say what you want about the guy, but when he hosted the Golden Globes last time, he was hysterical.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God. And so it's already 3 hours long.
Yeah. That was one of the finest send-ups of any Hollywood anything that I ever saw. That was hysterical. And he's not going to do it, but I sure wish he would. But that leaves us with only one clear alternative, and that's this. Should I send a resume to the Hollywood Foreign Press and say I'd be more than happy to host the Golden Globes? Should I do that? I've done lots and lots of MC work to, critical acclaim. I have. I could do it, but why would they have me? There's no reason. There is no reason. The thing about it is that I'd love to do the show. Not that I would follow in the footsteps of Ricky Gervais, but what I would do is something they probably haven't seen much. A very straightforward presentation of the presenters. And the show is 3 hours long, and a lot of it could be shortened simply by removing the drivel from the hosts. Now, please understand, a lot of that stuff was very, very funny. But how about this? How about a straightforward, professional presentation of the presenters and the Golden Globes, where the Master of Ceremonies was not interested in, say, for example, forwarding his or her own ideologies or senses of humor, or use it as a promotion for their careers, but just somebody that wanted to see the show start and end on time. There'd be plenty of humor. There'd be plenty of people being able to say plenty of witty things. The award show would go on as always. People would get their awards. They would say stupid things. Some would say very poignant and wonderful things too. But how about that? Is that something that you think that would help? And then, of course, there's this. With all these Hollywood people coming out against Israel and for Hamas, would anybody want to get close to a Hollywood award show at all? Would you be besmirching your own reputation? Would you be vilified? And then, of course, you're going to be vilified by somebody, but no matter what you do. But I wonder if that would be the way to do it. I remember Johnny Carson hosting the Oscars. And he had lots of very good, very funny quips, but he did not slow down the show. He just showed up in a perfectly tailored tux and presented the entire thing. Am I of that capability or caliber? No. But I could sure do the job. I wonder if I should send a resume. Yes or no? Oh, Yvonne says, I'd love to see you do the Golden Globes. Well, at least one person would be watching. This is the Wells Report. I'll see you again. Oh, by the way, there's a programming note. I have to hold up here for a moment. I had to end the show early yesterday, so I'll make up for it right now. I'm not going to be on the air tomorrow. And the reason I'm not going to be on the air tomorrow is because, well, I spent a lot of time in the high desert of Western America, where the elevation means that you are closer to the sun than a lot of places on this planet. And because of that, I've come down with basal cell skin cancer. It pops up hither, thither, and yon. Well, actually, hither and thither. Yon hasn't been affected yet. But then again, I didn't spend a lot of time on the nude beaches in Southern California. But let's move on. And for good reason. But I do have some basal cell skin cancer, and I have some right here, apparently. And so tomorrow, I'm going to be going to my very skillful Mohs surgeon. Her name is Dr. Sarah Momin, and she's going to chop off a portion of my face. All I can say is it might improve the aesthetics of this broadcast, but not until the bandage is removed. Now, the last time I did this, it was a piece of this stuff on my forehead. Well, yeah, that was the last time. The time before that, it was on my ear. But when they finished doing this, they put a big gauze pad on my forehead and wrapped around my head this big gauze bandage. So I kind of looked like one of the guys in the fife and drum band carrying the colors during the Revolutionary War. Yeah. And so I don't know exactly how they're going to bandage me this time. Of course, if they cover up my face, maybe that'll also enhance the aesthetics of the broadcast. But something tells me there's going to be this big patch of white bandage on the side of my face. I also want to know whether or not I should ask her to give me a sexy scar. Oh, not love you, praying for, oh, God love, well, let's see. Valerie said, praying for the surgeon. She can't mess up this face any more than it's already messed up. I mean, you know, I famously broke it a couple of years ago. I broke my face. And it's still here. It's still here, but I'm trying to figure out whether or not, and maybe Valerie, you can answer this question. Should I ask for a sexy scar? You know, one of those G.I. Joe scars that goes like this. You know, I am a soldier. That'd be kind of macho, wouldn't it? Huh? No? All right. I'm probably, by the way, the one she did on my forehead was perfect. I've never seen a scar that small. I never have. She's truly gifted. You know, so if you need Mohs surgery, the person to see is Dr. Sarah Momin, Momin. Ask for her by name. I told her last time, I said, we got to stop meeting like this. She goes, why? Because every time I meet with you, you chop off a part of my head. So there you go. That's going to be the case. I will be back on Thursday with a large freaking bandage on my face. And by the way, Valley, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. She says, oh no, love you, praying for the surgeon. She's not having a piece of her face removed. Well, anyway, wish me luck tomorrow afternoon sometime. I doubt, I think they're just going to use local anesthesia. It's a very small spot. But sometime in the afternoon, I'll give you an update on Facebook. Does that work? All right. That's all I have for today. God bless all y'all. Thanks. By the way, Val Dior, thank you so much for watching this show. I know that you would tell me if I sucked if I did. And that you didn't means that I can walk out of here feeling somewhat better about this broadcast. So let's see. Praying for both of you, JD, says Yvonne. Thank you, gorgeous. I appreciate it all. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Friday, unless I can't see you on Friday, but I will see you on Monday, come hell or high bandage. This has been the Wells Report. Take good care. God bless you and yours. And I'll see you either Friday or Monday. But one of those days, I'll